In the previous lessons, we talked about tables, and there's a bunch of places you can use them. For example, you can create pricing tables. Now, pricing tables, apart from the usual content, have some sort of call to action. That's usually a button. Let's see what Bootstrap has to offer in terms of button styling. Bootstrap offers a variety of styles for buttons. You can have different colors and different sizes. But the very foundation of a button styling is the btn class. So we can apply this to an anchor tag, let's say a normal button, or you can apply it to a button class. So button class btn. All right, so let's see how it looks. So this is the default button style. Now the btn class can also be applied to inputs. For example, we can have an input with a class of btn, and we can have text inputs. Let's give it a value, and also it can be applied to submit type inputs. All right, so this is a text input, which is of course still editable, and the input type submit, which looks exactly the same as a normal button. So you can see the consistency in styling across multiple elements. There are a few more additional classes that will help you use buttons in different situations. The first one, btn primary, will add some extra visual weight to a button. So let's try it out. btn will keep the primary class and add a secondary one, btn primary. And there it is. It's no longer gray, it has a default blue gradient. Now, you're most likely to use this as a call to action because it has a very strong presence. Remember the pricing table I was talking about at the start of the video? Well, that's a very good place to use it. There are also button styles that convey special meaning to the button actions. So let's see a couple of them. The first one, and I'm just going to create a few more buttons here, a btn. And the first class is btn info. All right, and btn info looks something like this. And then we have btn success, which is green. And then we have btn warning, which is yellow to orange. And finally, a btn danger, which is kind of equal in meaning with an error button or some kind of action like delete, for example. This one is red. So I imagine you can use all of these on forms and web applications. If you're looking for some alternatives to the default style, you can use the following two classes. The first one is called btn inverse. All right, which will basically create a dark gray button. And the other one is called btn link. Now this will make the button look exactly like a link, but it will maintain its button behavior. So that means, you know, clicking normal links usually takes you to another page, whereas clicking a button can open a drop down or, you know, show a tooltip or something like that. So using this class will maintain its button behavior. Once you find the proper styles for the button, you can play around with their size. And there are three classes you need to remember. And you can add any of these three classes to increase or decrease the default button size. And the first one, let's just copy 3 buttons. Okay, and the first one is BTN large. And you can see, compared to a normal button, it's a very, very big button. The second one is BTN small, okay, which is slightly smaller than the traditional button. And the last one is BTN mini, which is like a tiny, tiny button. Also, if you want a full-size button or a block level button, as it's also called, you can add the class of BTN block. So if, for example, I'm gonna add BTN block here, okay, this second button will span on the entire available width, making it a block level element instead of an inline element. Now remember, the classes we talked about are not mutually exclusive, so you can use any kind of combination, just like we did here. We have the BTN success, and then the BTN small and the BTN block. In some situations, you'll want to disable a certain button. For example, on an e-commerce website, after you click on the Pay Now button, it's usually a good practice to disable it so that you can't click it again by mistake and make the payment twice. In Bootstrap, you can add the class of disabled to an anchor tag or a button tag. Just remember though, this will not actually disable the button. It will only reduce its opacity. So let's check it out. The special button, for example, I want to make it disabled. So let's change its name and add the class of disabled. All right, now as you can see, its opacity is reduced and the cursor is gone. You know, the usual hand cursor that you see on most buttons is gone here, but it is still a button and you can click it since it's not really disabled. To properly disable it, you must use some JavaScript for the anchor tag, or simply, if you're using a button, use the disabled attribute. So let's check that out. If, for instance, I duplicate this and I change it to a button, okay. So let's see, button, and I'm gonna close it as well. Okay, these two look pretty much the same, but if I add disabled here, you can either use disabled true or simply disabled. Yeah, this is no longer clickable. There are 3 simple classes that can be applied to images. The first one, and let's just create some images here. So img, source, let's just load a demo image. And the first one is img-rounded. All right. Now this, I actually have to include HTTP here. This will create some round corners to that image. The second one is called img circle, which creates a circle from that image. And the third one is called img Polaroid, which, as the name suggests, creates a Polaroid effect on the image by adding some padding, a border, and a very, very subtle drop shadow. Just be aware that the first 2 classes, img rounded and img circle, don't work in IE 7 and 8 because of the lack of support for a border radius. Bootstrap provides 140 icons in sprite form, which are available in dark gray and white. They're made by glyph icons, and you can see the entire list on the Bootstrap homepage. Just go to base CSS and click on icons by glyph icons. And as you can see, there's a list of icons and the name of their respective class. Now, these icons are really easy to add to your project. First of all, you need to start with an I tag. So like this, I, and then you gotta give it a class of icon, dash, and then the name of the icon. So for example, if I want this music icon, I'm just gonna say icon music. And that's basically it. Right here, you can see the icon. Now, you can use the icons pretty much anywhere you want, like buttons, toolbars, and navigation and form controls. So let's check it out in a button. We're gonna let's do an anchor tag with a class of btn and btn primary, music, and then we'll do I with a class of icon music. Okay, now of course we need the white icon for this, so I'm gonna add the class of icon white, and this will load up the white icon. Now, just one thing to remember here: if you're gonna use the icon on the left side, so for example, we have the icon and then the text like this. This shouldn't be here, it's actually here. Okay, just make sure you leave one blank space between the I tag and the actual text, so like this. Okay, and that will give you some proper spacing. So far, we've looked at some very important web elements like tables and buttons. But there is another one that received some massive styling from Bootstrap: forms. So let's have a look at that and see how we can use them. That's coming up next.